There's certain things that transcend the scenario in which it's part of. For example, if you're lost in the wilderness and you find that you come to the realization, oh my gosh, I'm lost. Well, the first thing that has to happen is you have to realize that you're lost and you have problems, you don't know where you are, you have no idea where you're going to be going, you have no idea how to get there. So in order to figure that out, what you do is you have to stop. First thing you got to do is you got to stop. And in the first season, we talked a lot about that. We talked about pulling back, assessing all the equipment that you need to have, and so on and so forth. But how do you keep track of where you are as a person in life? Just as when you're lost, you have to keep track of all your possessions and everything you have, yada yada, so you can see how you can figure a way out of being lost. That same sort of metaphor can apply to life. And I found that one of the greatest ways to figure out where you're going and the direction that you want to go is to externalize your own perspective on your life. That's what I would recommend. And there's no greater tool to do this that I've found over the years than role-playing games. Anybody who's ever played role-playing games, chances are people watching this have never been exposed to real role-playing games. They always have the computer role-playing games. And don't get me wrong, I think there's nothing wrong with computer role-playing games. I think they're excellent. I think they're a lot of fun. But they're definitely not book role-playing games. Because the book role-playing games are, well, they're better. They enable the mind. They have a community. It's a great thing to do to get together with people. Now, whenever you talk about role-playing games, of course, there's so many different systems, and you think the Linux Microsoft thing is bad. That's nothing. You got to see what happens when you got like 25 different gamers who are all in love with different systems. It really gets bad. So what I recommend to everyone, whether you're a gamer or not, is to actually make yourself a character sheet. Now, this is something that gets taught in roundabout ways by writing creative workshops and executive groups. I was like, make a list of your strengths and weaknesses, whatever. What they're actually saying is make yourself a character sheet. Because realistically, that's what a resume is. That's what you do to try to sell yourself to a company, is you make this resume. And what is a resume but a character sheet, really? But what if you were to take a character sheet and make one that you could see where your own strengths and weaknesses are, and therefore you could plan ways to make yourself better or worse. So I'm just going to give you kind of my roundabout version of a character sheet. Now, if you are a gamer or you want to get involved with role-playing games, you're like, what is this role-playing game thing about? You do some research online, check it out, see all the different systems out there. By all means, go with a system that you enjoy. I have my preferences, but that's regardless. Okay, so what I've done is I've kind of mixed and matched a bunch of different systems together, and I'm just going to give you sort of a generalized format. So after watching this, you'll be able to kind of make a sheet for yourself and figure out where's your direction? What direction do you want to go? So, on your sheet, you want to have the following physical characteristics. This has to do with your physical body and what have you. So you've got your strength, usually measured on a scale between 1 to 10. Some people like to do it on a scale between 1 to 20. And with role-playing games, it's generated by dice and that. But for you, I generally think of myself on a scale from 1 to 20. And you do like some sort of a mathematical thing. Well, if 1, you could lift 20 pounds. So it's quite easy. 10 is as strong as you could humanly possibly be. 1 would be like, crippled or what have you. So you pick yourself out of space somewhere along there. I like using 1 to 20 because it's not quite so finite. Average on 1 to 20 is 10. So I'm going to say my strength is about I work out and I run a little bit, so I'm going to put my strength at about 12. Now, there'll be those that sit there and say, well, Sean, you're, and of course I'm writing sideways too, so it looks like hell. And then underneath strength, we've got intelligence. Strength, intelligence. Intelligence, that's not necessarily your wisdom. That's a different stat. The difference between intelligence and wisdom, intelligence is how well you can think. Wisdom is how well you can apply the experiences you've had in life. And those are a little bit heady, but there is quite a difference. There's lots of intelligent people out there who just do really dumb things repeatedly. Now, I would put my intelligence probably around, on a scale from 1 to 20. I'm going to be a little bit generous with myself here, and I'm going to give myself, say, a 13 intelligence on a scale of 1 to 20. Okay? Your wisdom, I've done a lot of stuff. I have done a lot of stuff. So I'm going to get a little bit buffy with my wisdom here, and I'm going to make my wisdom 15. Whoa, I'm sure there's gamers out there like, hey man, Rastlin only had a 14 wisdom. Okay, well, whatever. I'm going to give myself a 15 wisdom. If you can change this later, what have you. You have your dexterity. Your dexterity is how flexible you are. A 20 would be like a ninja or Bruce Lee. 1 would be Smokehouse. So what I would do instead of trying to classify yourself that way, I'd look around, probably put it in around the I stretch fairly often. I'll put it up there with my strength, which would be 12 again. Now, and again, if this is a role-playing game, all this would be randomly generated. But this is me. This is me that we're creating a character sheet for. So you have a lot more, leeway of what you think of yourself. You can go all egotistical, say, yeah, I'm the smartest guy ever, but you're not going to have an accurate character sheet then. You have to be honest with yourself. No one has to see this but you. Then you have your constitution. How tough are you in reference of getting sick, that kind of thing? Do you get sick often? Your bones prone to breaking? Have you had a lot of injuries growing up? That's got nothing to do with your fighting spirit. It just means how much punishment your body can take. My body can take a lot of punishment. So I'm going to give myself a 15 constitution as well. Then you've got your charisma, your ability to speak to people, be influenced, make friends easily, that kind of thing. And that is something that I can do. So I'm going to go absolutely crazy, give myself a 16 charisma. And your comeliness, which of course is your physical appearance only, how well you can dress up or look all haughty or whatever. Okay, that's sort of the general idea. Charisma offshoots your comeliness because there's lots of really ugly people who've got a lot of charisma. I give you Mick Jagger. I mean, his comeliness is like zero. But, he's got thousands and thousands of adoring fans. Why is that? Well, because he's got very high charisma. So for me, my comeliness, I'm going to plant that at about a good solid 7. So, we've got, underneath, once you get your physical attributes down, now in role-playing games, you use these attributes and they generate everything else. But since we're not part of any particular gaming system, this is just a general outline to give you sort of an idea where you're at. And you've got your name, which of course is going to be Sean for me here. I'll just write that in, Sean. Okay. My code name will be SKTFM. And then my age, I'm 31. Ouch. That's really old. Then we have your health. Now, health points and all that kind of jazz, this is usually where you get the idea of hit points and how much damage you can take in a game before you die. So like in Call of Cthulhu, for example, a game that's won all kinds of awards, if you get shot, you generally get killed right away. And I would recommend games that make guns lethal because it gives you a lot more accuracy in your role-playing scenarios that you may or may not endure. So you have your health, which has to do with how much poison you can take in your body, that kind of a thing. And depending on the system, I'm just going to say I've got 20 health points. Your SDC, which comes from Palladium, which means structural damage capacity. I give Palladium full credits for this. This was a concept they had that certain items increase your toughness. For example, if you get shot and you're wearing body armor, well, the armor absorbs the impact, right? Or if you've got subdermal armor due to cybernetic implants, that kind of a thing, the armor takes the damage. You yourself do not. You yourself will not be slowed down because your armor was damaged. So I'm going to have 0 SDC because right now I'm wearing a Kung Fu outfit. There's no leather armor. There's nothing like that. And, of course, your hit points. This is how much of a beating you can take. Now, hit points are kind of a funny thing because once you're, like any gamer would know, once your hit points are 0, you're dead. So it depends on how much damage things are cooking out. So we're going to go with, you look at how you run your damage charts. But generally, one gunshot should incapacitate anyone. That's your gaming criteria for systems, is that one gunshot should incapacitate anyone. So I'm going to give myself, as hit points, I'm going to give myself 10 hit points. Now, your average knife strike, usually like a knife stab wound, does 6 hit points damage. So by my scale, that means that I could be stabbed twice and be dead. Even though we've heard in the news that, you can get stabbed like 150 times and still not be dead. Moving along, we have your skills and weapon proficiencies. These 2 categories here, hopefully this one, will be the longest part of making your character sheet up. This is where you write down things you have working knowledge of. If you have working knowledge of, say, first aid, and you think of yourself, if I came across a scene and there was a guy lying on the ground, how proficient would I be at first aid as a percentage point? If I had 100% first aid, would that make me like a paramedic, or does that just mean that the paramedic's a different skill? So you isolate your skills. You have computer programming, you have HTML design, you have maybe lock picking as a skill. You can go through all the different gaming books and you can come up with all the different kinds of skills. That's why role-playing books are handy to have around. You sit around and go, I don't know anything. Well, do you know anything about botany, plant life? Well, yeah, I used to help my mom garden and stuff like that. Well, great. That means you've got some skills in botany. Do you have some skills in cryptography? Do you have skills with tactical movement? Do you have skills with plotting, tactical thinking? This skill sheet should go down. Each one you put a percentage point on. If you got a little bit of knowledge in it, you got 10% or 5% in this knowledge. But if you're lead hacksaw and you know what's going on, crank that sucker up. Never give yourself 100% in anything because that means you're infallible and you can never be beaten. Usually in the role-playing games, they play them with different dice. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 20-sided dice. So what happens is with a percentage, you would run up a scenario, you'd put all your dice together and roll, and then that will it'll generate a number, and that number based against your skill point numbers plus the modifier provided by your general gaming master, and you determine whether or not you make the roll. The whole world of role-playing is essentially a glorified game of what if. And back in the 80s, all the crazy Christian institutions swore that before, like now you only hear about the video games being evil. Well, before there was the video games, there was these guys. There was the role-playing games, and there was many a book burned, and many kids wound up getting very heavily persecuted, yours truly amongst them, simply because we wanted to use our minds to escape reality, because we wanted to enjoy these worlds created. Now these games here, SLA Industries, Cyberpunk, Shadowrun, Dark Conspiracy, these are all games with a very much a cyberpunk feel to it. GURPS makes a cyberpunk book as well. And there's a few other ones. There's some ones that I have a copy of, one called Cult, which is very, very rare. Some of the games were made illegal because they had dangerous materials, enabled people to make characters that nobody should make. There's a very weird portion of history, and now it's largely forgotten because everything's gone into video games. But before the video games, I'd urge everyone to get together, make yourself up a character sheet so you can look at yourself objectively. See if your strength is low and you want to up it by working out, by doing cardio, by getting some skills in running. Weapon proficiencies. What kind of weapons do you know how to use? Do you know how to use a knife? Do you know how to use a gun? Do you know how to use a bow staff, nunchucks? What do you know how to use? You don't put you can put a percentage beside it if you like, or you can just note that you have it there. And going through there, you're able to look at yourself as a character in a story or in a book or even in your own life. And then from that, you can choose a character class, something you want to do, something you want to spend your life doing. Spend some thought on this. This is you. This is one of the few occasions you get to stand back and go, you know, what do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to present myself to other people to be? Because nobody gives anybody any thought about that. Nobody gives themselves the thought to be, what kind of person do I want to be, not the kind of person they tell you to be. My name is Sean Kennedy, and I am the fucking man.